If you've just got a Gundog puppy, congratulations. Or if you're thinking about getting one and you're not sure what to buy, this video is for you. At the time of filming this, I am due to pick up my German wire-haired pointer Drift. Here she is. I'm going to be talking you through what I've bought her, and I'm also going to be talking you through the things I've not bought for her and why. Just to clarify as well, this dog is going to be my working prospect. We are going to be going on shoots and whatever else we fancy dabbling in as well along the way. First of all is going to be getting the dog home. What you'll see here is we've got, to be fair, a very bog standard and basic travel crate. The important thing to note here is with your puppies, the early stages aren't going to be very long, I'll be completely honest. And as much as we'd like them to be, they're just not going to be the case. It's likely she's going to outgrow this very, very quickly. So we've just got a very basic, very simple travel crate that I can use for two things. First, just obviously transporting her, and second, this is what we're going to be using for crate training her and getting her accustomed to being in the crate for working on settling and switching off. To show you this one, you can pick this up from Pets at Home. It was really cheap, to be fair, but it's actually quite well made. It's quite sturdy. It's got a really nice sturdy front gate, a little carry handle at the top for when you need to transport, and then it's got a nice little solid locking mechanism, because you think you've got a little velociraptor of a puppy in here, they're going to be ragging on that door like no tomorrow. It needs to be sturdy enough so they're not going to burst it open. As you can see in here, oops, I've opened that wrong. Sorry, technical difficulties. As you can see in here, very basic setup. I'm in two minds, to be honest, in regards to taking this off. I might leave it on, I might take it off. Basically what it is, it's just a little water compartment area. If you've got a puppy or you know of a puppy, it's like that's just going to get pissed all over the crate. So it's like that. I'm probably going to take it off, to be fair. And then inside, we've just got a nice waterproof blanket, a nice soft cushioned bed, and then on the bottom of there, just for a little bit of soaking purposes, we've got a nice little lining of just a bit of vet bed as well, just to kind of cover the bottom of the crate in case we do have any nasties or any accidents or anything like that. You'll notice what's not in here, and this is something that I see a lot of people falling into the trap of, is they'll put puppy pads in the crates. I don't really understand the reasoning behind why you do that, because all you're doing is teaching your dog to piss itself and piss the bed. For me, just incorporate a very solid and consistent toilet routine so that you don't run into that trap of your dog understanding that it's acceptable and fine to wee in the crate. Of course, accidents are likely to happen. That's the whole point of raising a puppy. It's not going to go smooth sailing all the way through. So in here, we do have a nice waterproof blanket, just for in case we do have any incidents or anything like that. But like you can see in there, it's very cushy, it's very calm, it's very compact and nice. Another thing to note about when you get a puppy, don't fall into the trap of buying them with a big massive whacking setup of a big huge mansion style crate and the puppy pen around it, because often what you'll see is they'll just get a little bit overwhelmed and you probably run into some problems in regards to when it's working through settling and switching off and the ability to actually leave them. There's just going to be too much space for them to deal with. So keep it nice and calm and compact and incorporate a nice little solid toilet routine as you go along with it. One of the reasons why I'm using a crate to transport the puppy rather than, say, having the dog on my knee or in some sort of like travel hammock or something like that, is the best way to set your dog up for the utmost success is from day one. So if you get into the habit of utilizing a space away from you literally from the very beginning, it's going to massively project you forward in regards to setting you up for the utmost success when it comes to car travel and getting your dog accustomed and comfortable being away from you when it comes to traveling. I do have in my vehicle DT boxes, which are crash proof tested crates, meaning if we're going to a crash, the dogs are going to be absolutely fine. The reason I'm not using that is it's a little bit too big and it is a little bit too far away from where the puppy is going to be when in the car. As much as I want to promote a little bit of independence, I do want safety to be the forefront of everything. So this is just going to be a means to an end. This is going to be comfortably strapped in as well, so it's not going to be able to like move around or skid around the car or anything like that. We're strapping her in, we're keeping her nice and safe and secure. And the reason I'm using the same crate crate in the car as what I'm using outside the car, is I want this to be the safe space. I want the dog to see this as like safe haven. I'm comfortable, I'm confident, I'm reliable when I'm inside this crate, and I have nothing to worry about, because there's a lot of people that I work with HPRs where one of their key defining factor behaviors that they're struggling with is independence, or the dog, well, none of the dog is independent, but the dog struggles significantly with FOMO. So in the house, the fear of missing out, or you go out somewhere and your dog just has an absolute meltdown. So that's why we're trying to create as much comfortability around this as possible. Obviously, this isn't going to be the crate she's going to be in forever, because, I mean, give it probably 3 weeks and she's probably going to outgrow this, to be honest. This is just like a starting point, basically, before we level her up. I already have the upsized crates for her to go into. I've got both sizes that I'll need for where she's going to be at in her growth. I've received a lot of pictures and videos and things of the mum and dad in action. I know their sizes, I know their weights, all that kind of stuff. So I know exactly what I need to be getting in regards to crate sizes, so I can be quite proactive about it. Obviously, you don't have to be as anal as me, but that is just me when it comes to raising a dog. This is not going to be seen as a punishment. I'm not going to use this as a way in which to punish a dog for bad behavior. What this simply does, what this simply creates, is a safe haven for the dog. You realistically should not be punishing a puppy for anything, if I'm being completely honest with you, because they are literally fresh into this world. They do not know right from wrong. Of course, it's up to us to teach it, but in the early stages, a lot of it is going to be around navigating and confidence building. So this prevention is better than the cure. So if I do need to do anything in regards to preventing puppy biting or overstimulation or anything of the sorts, it's likely the root cause of that is because the dog is not getting enough sleep and rest. So this is going to come in handy for enforcing that. Next up, we obviously want to control and manage as much as we can in the early stages. So when it comes to enforcing that in the house, if you just leave your puppy to their own devices and you don't set clear rules and boundaries in regards to where they can and can't go, it's very, very likely that as they start to grow up and as they start to progress through into adolescence or the teenage phase, the dreaded teenage phase, you'll have got a dog that's learned in early stages that they can take the mick. So what we need to set as an example is create structure, implement boundaries to help our dogs as much as physically possible. So that's where this comes into play. I love this. This is great. So this is what you call a puppy house line. As you'll see, it's quite different to your normal sort of flat buckle leads. It's not as thick, it's not the same material, it's a lot thinner, but it's a lot longer. So you think if I've got all this line and it's then attached to the puppy and they can obviously maneuver around the house and whatnot, I've got a surefire way in which I can grab hold of that and implement a little bit of control and put a stop to that dog rehearsing and reinforcing bad behaviors at an early age. One thing I will not be doing is allowing her to rag off this lead or pull it or use it as a toy, because as soon as you start to incorporate reinforcement towards a dog doing that behavior, guess what? It's going to stick for quite some time, because it's funny. The dog finds enjoyment in ragging leads and pulling things because it likely gives them attention from you and it turns into a little bit of a game. So I'm going to make sure that not to discourage it, but pretty much just out and out ignore it or just not draw any attention to it so that the dog doesn't see it as a game. But when we get onto things like stimulation and fulfillment and stuff in a moment, a lot of this stuff isn't going to happen anyway. The great thing about a house line is it does take the human out of the equation. You think if she is getting into a little bit of mischief, if I'm going in there and I'm grabbing hold of her or I'm picking her up or I'm incorporating a little bit of negative attention onto that dog, it's going to reinforce it either way. Whereas with this, it takes the reinforcement out of the equation. All I have to do is grab the house lead as opposed to grabbing the dog and giving the dog affection, because believe it or not, guys, even if you mean what you say in regards to what you're trying to enforce with your dog, but you happen to touch them or interact with them in some way, that's still attention on their half, meaning you just rewarded the behavior. So use this to take that out of the equation. So next up, this is just like a really basic one, to be honest, and it's likely that I'm not even going to use this long term. I think Yaz has even taxed this, to be honest, in regards to her puppy when she gets a terrier. So that's as far as I want to go with that one. It's literally, how cute is this, as by the way, like the size of it, the print on it and everything. I think that's adorable. This is just going to be a basic little sort of flat collar that I'm going to have for her, just to get her used to and accustomed to things being on her neck and being around her neck. It's not got a great deal of weight to it, but it's weight enough to utilize for around the house. And then that's obviously something that I can attach my house lead to, so when she is running a muckery in the house and terrorizing everyone, got a nice consistent way in which I can put her into a controlled setting. And then this, again, I'm not even sure if I'm going to use this, to be honest, because it just literally came with the collar. I just like the collar more than anything else, but this is just a normal sort of bog standard buckle lead. It's actually a really good buckle, like, I'm not going to lie, like nerdy dog trainer moment, like that's actually a really good mechanism. Anyway, that's something that I'll be using probably very little because of what I'm actually going to be using when I take her out. One key thing to note is this will not be on when she is in here, simply because safety. I don't like dogs to have collars on when they're in crates. Sid is pretty much naked. Sid is pretty much naked most of the time, so as you'll see, in regards to him, he has like basically nothing on most of the time for that exact reason. I just don't like for him to be in crates and things like that wearing stuff, because he's a little bit of a rumbler and he does move around a lot in the crate. So Yaz just reminded me of a little story there, where if we think back to when Teddy, put a little picture of Teddy on screen here, this is Yaz's parents' cockapoo. When she was a puppy, she had a collar on in the house and she was left unattended, tut tut, and she actually got stuck on a little Christmas ornament and she let out a ungodly scream because she was obviously terrified as to why the blooming heck is this Christmas ornament following me around the room. She absolutely lost her marbles, and I actually do say that still till this day, that is why she's a little bit dubious in regards to going towards things. And I don't think we've got any videos of it, but she does come across as quite skittish when it comes to interacting with new things, and I do honestly believe that that's probably an imprintation of trauma from a young age. But anyway, basically we're not going to be having collars on inside crates because it's just safety risk. So next up, I'm going to do this one as a little bit of a combo because they are basically going to be used within each other. So first of all, the old faithful. We've got the Flexi lead. These are not to be hated, guys. Like, I see a lot of people give these a lot of stick online. I really don't know why. Well, actually, no, I do know why. It's because people walk them on them. You should not, and I repeat, you should not be walking your dog on a Flexi lead, especially around roadsides or blind corners or things like that. I mean, even in like a woodlandy area, I don't realistically think you should be walking your dog on a Flexi, because all you're doing is creating your dog to understand that they can create tension at distance from you, and it's just going to cause a significant amount of conflict. So only be using this for recall and recall alone. So that pairs in with my next piece of equipment. I love this. I think this is a fantastic piece of kit. So harnesses, I don't hate them. I think harnesses definitely have their place, and they are fantastic pieces of equipment if you know how to use them. Now, obviously, a harness, it does make things like pulling and stuff like that quite comfortable, but I'd rather a dog pull on this than say walk a puppy around on, where is it, on my flat collar, and they just pull into pressure and just learn from a young age that pulling into pressure is acceptable. Whereas on a harness, what I can do is I can actually utilize this for when it comes to socialization and exposure, and actually giving the dog comfortability when outside of the house. One thing I won't be doing is utilizing these two things together and just allowing for the dog to go full extent of that Flexi and just be pissing about, doing its own thing, self-reinforcing, especially with a HPR breed, because that's going to shoot me in the foot significantly later down the line. So instead, I'm only going to be using this combination for pure purposes of conditioning and reliable recall, conditioning applying my marker system and obviously for giving the dog a little bit more free rein to go away and do other things when it comes to socialization and exposure. I won't be using a slip lead probably until the dog is well over maybe like 6 months old, if I'm being completely honest, simply because I do not see the point in doing any form of structured training in that way with a puppy. For your puppy to have the utmost success, you need to be prioritizing relationship building. Yes, incorporate bits of your, like, you know, rules, boundaries and expectations and things like that, but there is absolutely no need for you to be teaching loose lead walking with a puppy. Think of it like a coiled spring, right? So if you've got a coiled spring like the one that's inside this this house lead here, so we've got a little spring in there. When you are teaching your dog to loose lead walk or teaching your puppy to loose lead walk, that spring is condensing and condensing and condensing and condensing until it is as tight as physically possible. And the reason for that is because you've deducted that dog's world so incredibly small because you are trying to prioritize something that does not come naturally to them, and you're taking away something that is super important, which is obviously freedom and the ability to explore. If you don't allow a puppy to explore, guess what? That's probably the fast track way in which you're going to create things like anxiety, reactivity, excessive means of pulling on the lead, for the simple factor of you've condensed that spring to the point where your dog is literally like a loose cannon. So any minor inconvenience is going to keep them shooting forward and causing you more problems than it's worth. Don't be doing things like loose lead walking or trying to work on loose lead walking. I see it all the time on Facebook groups where you'll have people being like, oh, I've got an 8-week-old puppy and she pulls me like an absolute steamer on the lead. How do I stop her pulling? It's like, good. I'm glad your dog pulls on the lead because it shows that they're confident and outgoing to want to go out into the world and explore. That's exactly what you should be doing with a puppy. Don't worry about things like loose lead walking and things like that to way down the line. And you'll find that it's so much more of an easier transition when you've got more of a relationship and more of a actual foundational core principles of your dog, an intrinsic means of motivation to actually get them to want to walk with you as opposed to you forcing them from day dot. Anyway, a little bit of a side rant there. Next up, keeping on the premise of like clarity and communication and things like that, I will be conditioning Drift to a whistle. So we will be using a Gundog whistle. I'm likely going to start to utilize this from day one. I'm going to start to layer it over the top of a couple of things, get her to create this as, or understand this as a nice positive. Whenever she hears this, I always want her to associate it with something good because it's super important that your dog has a nice positive association with the whistle because you're going to be using it quite a lot out in the field. To pair with that, just as another form of communication, we have a finger clicker. So a finger clicker basically does exactly what it says on the tin. When you click it, it makes a sound. I'm going to be using this for creating clarity and communication with my puppy. I like to use clickers with puppies simply for that. I want it to be as simple and as clear as physically possible for that dog to understand when they hear this, it means food is coming. It means you are going to be paid. I want this to literally be like Thor's hammer, right? So like Thor's hammer, when he puts his hand out and he's there and his hammer comes smashing into his hand, that's exactly the same response I want to create with my clicker. I want to go like that, and my dog is going to come flying towards me at 1,000,000 miles an hour because this is so positively conditioned. This is basically going to act as my marker system. When I'm trying to communicate with my dog and allow them to understand when they've done something good, I want to reward that behavior. So that's where I'm going to be using my clicker to use as my terminal marker. So in generic terms, like Sid's terminal marker is yes. I'm not going to say very loud because he's literally sat right there. He's going to expect food. So I'm going to basically be using this as my terminal marker to reward my dog for getting it right. And then we'll fade out more of a marker system as she gets older. And then to kind of piece it all together, for currency, we have a treat pouch. Now, it's not this specific one. This is just one we had on hand to utilize. Obviously, my hand is not fitting in there when it comes to rewarding the dog. But we've just got a basic trainer's pouch here. I'm getting the large version of this in orange, obviously. And that's what I'm going to be using for currency for the dog. So whenever I pay and reward the dog, it is going to come from this. Now, I find that treat pouches are one of those things, you either love them or you hate them. I mean, I genuinely don't see why people have a problem with them. I think it's just a great way in which you can easily access rewards and pay your dog. You know, we wouldn't go to work for free, just like our dogs won't go to work for free, so we have to have effective means of communication to be able to reward them and pay them when they've done something good. Puppies have a very, very short attention span, literally like the same attention span of a fish, so you are going to need to make sure you've got a quick and surefire way in which you can actively reward them. If you're fanning around with plastic bags, or I don't know if you've ever been to Pets at Home, but they have those really tiny little freaking like coin pouches that your nana'd use when she takes you to the fair. You know, that kind of stuff. It's just not going to work, right? You need some sheer-fire effective way in which you can pay and reward a dog for doing a good behavior. Next up, we have play and fulfillment. Now, the toys that you see here in front of me, these will change as Drift gets older. In the early stages, my main principle, my main point of call is I just want to build desire. I just want to build love and affection for wanting to interact in play. So starting off, I wouldn't really call this a toy, to be honest. This is more like just like a teething item, something that I'm going to give her access to, because it'd be very, very mean of me to not give her access to anything when it came to her teething or anything like that. So I've just got this. I thought this was pretty cool, actually. So I got this from Pets at Home. You put it in the freezer and you can dip this in water, put that in the freezer, and it makes it obviously frozen. This hardens up as well. She's going to be supervised with this, guys. It's not going to be a case of, you know, I've just got her in the crate, frozen that, doss it in, and then she's off chewing it. She's going to be supervised with this at all times. I'm not 100% convinced that this is going to be reliable and it's going to, you know, stay intact and things like that. It's a little bit rubbery, you know, it's not great quality. You know, this could get stuck on her teeth and stuff like that. So I need to make sure that I'm supervising her at all times when it comes to utilizing this, but it's just for a little bit of an aid for if she's got a little bit of sore gums, sore teeth, you know, her adult teeth are coming through. I need to make sure that I've got something there that I can utilize. Now, cooperative play. Cooperative play is something that I am so very passionate about. You know, you'll have seen in other videos on the channel, we've got a bunch of stuff on cooperative play and building cooperative play with your dog. I think it's a really valuable thing to do with your dogs, especially your puppies, because you want to build as much value as physically possible in you. So if you don't have anything there in order to do that, then you're going to struggle quite significantly. I thought this was awesome. So this is from the company Wainwrights, I think. I have very similar toys to this that I use for my one-to-one clients, and I just thought this was brilliant. So it's basically looks as if it's like some sort of like animal, some sort of like creature. It's got two little ears at the top of it, but I like how it's quite far away from me, and also we've got the bungee element to it here as well, so I can sort of mimic and incorporate a little bit of like pre-orientated movements and sounds because it's crinkly. But the great thing about it is it's far away from me, so if I am building cooperative play, which again with a puppy is going to be very, very simple, but for the early stages, just to kind of like build on that element of actually interacting with me cooperatively, this is going to work really, really well for setting that clear example of interacting with me. And obviously I can use this as well. I can come down here and give her less stuff to bite, stuff like that. I just thought it was like a really, really cool tool. For Gundogs, obviously this can tap into what we call the predatory motor sequence very, very easily, which will put a little thing on screen here of everything that incorporates into the predatory motor sequence, so you can see it for reference. Give that a pause and give it a little bit of a read. But it gives me the ability to tap into things like stalk, you know, chase, catch. Obviously, I'm not going to go to kill and dissect because that's not what Gundogs do, but we can at least get them to fulfill through the sequence quite successfully. Now, that's more so for like actual cooperative play and stuff like that. These sort of things, I just thought this was really funny. Little rabbit toy, this sort of stuff, I'm going to start to incorporate for a little bit of some easy, successful retrieval stuff. Now, I am going to be doing a little bit of some retrieval stuff from a very, very young age, but it's not going to be something where I'm going to go out and do like a 15-20-minute session with my puppy. It's going to be a case of we're going to do like a couple of retrieves here and there, potentially no more than max probably 4 or 5 reps of just throwing something out, her bringing it back, me fussing her up, giving her lots of love and affection, because I don't want to tarnish what we've got. I want her to be able to have enjoyment when it comes to retrieval, actually want to go out and seek things to bring them back to me. So in the early stages, because she's going to have puppy brain and she's going to be a little bit scrambled egged, I want to kind of make it nice and quick and easy, successful reps. If I weren't to use these, I probably would use some Gundog orientated toys, which actually I do have some coming in the mail. So if they come before this video is uploaded, I'll bang them on screen here so you can see them. But I will be using just these for like really easy, quick, successful repetitions. And this, by the way, is just a IQ. So obviously we've got the crack cocaine of Sid's World, which is a rabbit ball. So he's quite eagerly waiting for that one. But I wanted to just show you this toy. So I'm quite an avid fisherman, love to go fishing, and Drift definitely will be coming fishing with me. I'm gonna have her sitting on the bank, chilling out, just like this old man does right here. But I saw this and I thought that's absolutely fantastic. It's a little perch toy. So I'll be using that for retrieval. I can't really explain it, but it's like, it's got like a really weird, odd texture to it. Like it kind of feels somewhat like a fish. Sid likes it anyway. Like he's always blooming walking about with it in his gob, dead. And I thought it was just quite funny. So anyway, yeah, there's that as well. This is something that I probably still will utilize, and I probably will use this for teaching a couple of like early directionals and stuff like that, just because I pretty much like to use food when it comes to Gundog training. But we do have a bowl, so a food bowl, because I'm going to be feeding her raw. I do want a bowl that I know full well I can clean this effectively and efficiently, so there's not going to be any bacteria left over. Remember, after every single meal you should be cleaning your bowls anyway, you dirty bugger. Do not be leaving them out with grubby bits of food in them. I'll be using this. Like I said, I am going to be feeding her raw, so that's again why I've got a silicone treat pouch, but something that is not going to mean that it's going to get all grimy and get stuff stuck in there and all that kind of stuff, because we don't want that. There's actually so much that you can do with this, like a stupid amount of things that you can do with just literally a food bowl and your dog's daily food allowance, and we will be showcasing a couple of ways in which you can utilize this to your best points of advantage. Something else I wanted to touch on was just on the topic of grooming. You know, she's going to need to be groomed, but she's not going to be as high maintenance as, say, Sid, my Springer Spaniel, is. Like, he literally needs to be groomed like every other day because he molts like no man's business. Thought I'd just touch quickly on grooming. No, this is not a lightsaber, as much as I wish it was, because I'd love a lightsaber. It's a Dremel. So basically what this does is it's for your dog's paws, your dog's claws, to basically grind them down so that they're not overgrowing and digging into your dog's paws and so on and so forth. I'll be desensitizing her to this, getting her to follow along and understand that when she hears that, it's a positive, just like how Sid does. You know, Sid just looks at it like, yeah, cool, I know what that is, it's for my toes. And this has got like varying different speeds as well, so we're on 6 there. Obviously you can see that gets quite fast, all the way down to like 1, which is probably what I'm going to be using for when I'm doing my sessions. Something I actually might do as well with this is when she's eating out of the bowl, I'll probably just have this out on level 6, just basically vibrating around the room as she's eating, just to kind of desensitize her to a little bit of some motion and things like that. But yeah, that's on the Dremel. And then just other sort of like cooperative care, building on that, we've got a brush here. Sorry, it's a little bit grim, it's got my dog's hairs in it, because I use this on a daily basis. I'll be using this literally again, day dot, getting her comfortable, getting her accustomed to feeling the sensation. I'm going to be handling her paws, I'm going to be looking in her mouth, opening her eyes, looking in her ears, touching her beard. All that kind of stuff is super, super important to layer in with your puppies, because it will get to a point when they need to go to the groomers, or they need to go to the vets, or they need to be handled by someone else. And if you've not nailed cooperative care from the get-go, you're probably going to find you're going to run into a lot of problems. Really, really important that you layer that in from the very, very beginning. Can't recommend it enough. On the topic of handling, we got some wipes here. Highly recommend this brand, by the way. I believe we got these off Amazon, but I think you can get it from like Pets at Home, Jollies, all that kind of stuff. They're literally just natural wipes. Again, similar thing in regards to handling. I'm going to be utilizing these alongside that for just general cleaning purposes. You know what puppies are like, they get themselves into all sorts of crap, so I need to make sure I've got a nice easy way in which I can get them cleaned and get her clean, so that she's not going to stink the place out. But yeah, just another little thing there for reference. Something else to note off the back end of grooming and stuff like that is obviously bathing. So I will be bathing her. I will be getting her accustomed to being in a bath and getting dried and getting jetted with the shower head and stuff like that. all really, really important stuff. We don't think it's important until it actually needs to come about. You know, there'll be so many people out there where you bath your dog for the first time, or maybe, I don't know, you've not done it for a while and then you introduce it and your dog's bloody flailing all over the place and skidding around the room and surfing on your tiles and all that kind of stuff. It's like, oh my God, what the heck, and you want to correct them for it, when in reality it's kind of your fault because you've not done enough preparation, you've not desensitized them to it, you've not built resilience around that thing, and that's why they are skating around like an absolute loony, because they're just so dysregulated. So it's going to be something that's really, really important, getting her accustomed, getting her comfortable with being bathed, being handled, not just by me. I will literally be going up to people that I know, clients that I've got when I take her to sessions, and just handing her over to them and going, here, go and play with this, or go and interact with her, or go and do something with her, because the more socialization and exposure that she gets, the better it's going to help me out in the long run. On the topic of socialization and exposure, I find that this is a topic that a lot of people get wrong. They think of socialization and exposure as greeting other dogs, greeting other people, which to a degree, yes, that is something that you do need to expose your puppy to, because if you just go the entirety of the time never allowing them to greet people or other dogs, you're going to have a reactive dog on your hands, because they're just going to see those things as negative instances, which we don't want. The thing about socialization and exposure that people get wrong is they don't think about the other external factors. How many of you out there take your dogs to the beach and things like that, and your dog just goes absolutely apeshit and off its titty wobbles because it gets onto the sand for the first time and thinks it's like absolute crack cocaine, and they just go absolutely feral? It's likely because you've just not done enough socialization and exposure. You know, maybe they've got out the car, there's all these sounds, all these smells, all these people, dogs, and then there's sand, which, by the way, sand actually releases endorphins in your dog's paws, makes them feel good, and actually revs them up more to want to then go flying and running feral. So the more I can get in exposure, and the more I can get her comfortable with things like surroundings, surfaces, sand, grass, tarmac, snow, water, rain, so many of my GSP clients, or I'm going to call you all out now, my GSP clients, or my Weimaraner clients, or my Vizsla clients are like, oh, the dog hates the rain. They don't want to go out in it. They think it's the worst thing in the world. That's likely because we've not done enough socialization and exposure at a young age. We don't like going out in the rain, therefore our dogs don't like going out in the rain, because we always avoid it. The more you get them out, the more you get them accustomed to it, the more they become socialized to that thing, the more it's then going to set you up perfectly for the future. Another thing to note as well is, just on socialization and exposure, noise exposure. Remember, this is a dog that is going to be going on like shoots, driven shoots, where there's going to be a lot of shotguns going off, a lot of bangs, a lot of people shouting, rowdy people after a couple of port, you know, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to need to get that dog accustomed and acclimatized to that thing. So from a very, very young age, I'm very fortunate enough to which where my training ground is, it is on a clay pigeon shooting ground. Therefore, I can take my dog and she will hear shotguns going off. She will see clays going overhead. She will see all of those things at a very, very young age, which is going to desensitize her very, very nicely. Not to mention time of year as well. So when you watch this video, it's going to be around about like September time, near enough, or the back end of August, meaning we're going to be going into where we're going to see those darker mornings, those darker nights, you know, winter or autumn around the corner, winter then closely follows, all that kind of stuff. So the time of year is literally perfect, to be fair, for getting all those exposure sessions in. I'll also be doing a lot of sounds and things around the house. So going back to my my bowl session, so banging some food in the bowl, having her eat out of that whilst I'm rolling the vacuum cleaner back and forth. We've got a decarcher, which, if you don't know what a decarcher is, it's basically like a jet wash for dogs. Click a button and it basically makes a noise, and it's quite loud, but it's good to get a dog to be desensitized to it. There's loads of stuff that I'm going to be utilizing to my advantage for some socialization and exposure. Now, I've obviously gone through everything here that I have bought. I think it's going to be really beneficial if I go through things that I've not bought for people that would be wondering. So one of the obvious ones when it comes to a puppy is people always gravitate towards, puppy pads. We need to get puppy pads. We need to go buy puppy pads, bang them in every single room, put them in the dog's crate, yada, 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 all of the above. I mean, yeah, it's brilliant. It's fantastic that you can teach your dog to piss on a mat, but guess what? That dog is not going to be able to understand the differences between peeing on a mat and peeing around the house. So you're basically teaching them and reinforcing them for weeing in the house. Whereas if you just create a nice toilet routine, if you get them to understand that you wee outside, it's going to be massively beneficial. Now, common one to note there is obviously people are going to be like, oh, well, what if the dog's not vaccinated? It doesn't matter. If you sterilise an environment, you've got a nice bit of grass or area outside that you can utilise, that's sterilised and you know it's safe, go out and utilise it. We're fortunate enough to have a car park to the side here. Done a little bit of some sterilising of it out there just to be sure, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be absolutely fine if I'm being completely honest. I think people have kind of fallen a little bit susceptible to a little bit of scaremongering there, to be fair, in regards to puppies and not being vaccinated, but there we go. That's just my personal opinion. So I will be taking her out and I will be, utilising the environments I've got around me for toileting and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm not going to go and take her to a blooming pig farm or some sort of like really scrubby environment where there probably is a lot of diseases that even I can probably catch, to be fair. We're going to be respectful. We're going to be very responsible as well in regards to that to set her up for the utmost success. So next up is the reason why I've not opted for a puppy pen. Now, I honestly think this is more personal preference than anything else. I don't really see a problem with having a puppy pen if you think it can genuinely help you out. Say if you have to leave your dog unattended for whatever reason, you need to have them have a little bit more space or anything like that. I get it, I understand it, it's completely fine. However, myself, sleep and rest is super, super important. Like, your puppy needs to be getting anywhere between around about 16 to 17 hours of sleep in total. That's a hell of a lot of time. And if they're not meeting that, then it's likely that that's probably why you're seeing a lot of things like overstimulation, puppy biting, mouthing, terrorizing you on an evening. They're probably just not getting enough sleep. I'm going to be highly prioritizing this and giving my dog more sleep and rest rather than using something like a puppy pen, which is just going to give them more space to roam around and practice independence from a young age. Oh, something to know is I will be teaching settling and switching off outside of this as well. It's not going to be puppy just goes in crate, stays in crate, comes out, does something, goes back in crate. I will be teaching out of crate settling and switching off via the use of a place bed. I think that's a very, very valuable skill that you can start to teach from a very young age. The sooner the better, ideally, because I deal with a hell of a lot of HPR clients that have dogs that cannot regulate to save their lives, and as a result of it are very whingy, very whiny, very barky when it comes to getting them to do nothing. So I'm going to be getting that puppy to practice doing nothing, practice being bored from a young age. It's going to really, really help me out, and it's going to be a transferable skill out into the field as well. Next up is the reason why I've not bought 1,025,000 different toys and why I've not bought a toy box. So the reason why I've not bought a toy box is because these aren't going to be just dossed around the house in random bits for the dog to run up to and pick up at any given point. They're going to be put away, and I'm only going to be using these for set play sessions. So to be able to actually interact with that dog cooperatively at key points. We want to teach our dogs that food is as much of a valuable resource as toys are, and interacting with me. The more cooperative play I can build, the more cooperative abilities I can build with my dog, the more that's going to strengthen our relationship and make everything else better as well. I mean, yeah, a toy box could be beneficial, but we're talking about a GWP here. As she starts to get older, she's just going to be able to knock it off or pull a toy out when she finds it and then run around the house with it and stuff like that, which it's just going to promote that she can find things and run around with them, which I don't want. I'm going to put these things away so that I can just have set play sessions with her instead. There is one thing I've got for her that isn't a physical item, and you cannot see it here on this table, and that is a plan. We have a game plan in place. I have been planning this dog for the best part, I'd say, 3 years or so, something like that, and we've just been waiting for the right opportunity to come along and introduce it. Now, the actual planning process, so, getting everything in place regarding vets, getting everything in place in regards to all these items here, setting up the place upstairs, all of the above has been going on for months. We've been making sure that that is all in place, all set out. Another key factor, which you'll see when we go through the actual process of picking Drift up, is we're going for her early doors. We're talking 8:30 a.m. sharp. We are going to be on that farm ready to pick up the next generation of Bare Basics. Bearing in mind she's an hour and a half away, so we're going to be up well past like probably 6, 5, I don't know. I usually get up at 5 anyway, but we're going to be up early is what I'm saying, to set that dog up for the utmost success. We're not picking her up at 7:30 on an evening, you know, expecting her to get on with it for the night. We're going to be able to spend the full day with her and set her up for the utmost success. And just to mention as well, you don't need all of this to have a fantastic and sensational puppy. You absolutely will be able to get away with just like a couple of these things here. However, this is just everything that I've put in place that I know as a professional, this is going to be really, really beneficial for my pup. A puppy needs daily, consistent decisions that are going to add up over time. The aim for Drift is she is going to be like the out and out adventure dog, just like Sid, right? Sid is the Swiss Army dog of the Gundog world. You know, he can do Gundog training. He can come out on hikes. If I wanted to, I could get into running with him, which I'm going to be doing running with Drift, but that's for another day. I could do all of those things if I wanted to, because he's just so adaptable and moldable. That's why I picked him in the first place. To have that game plan for Drift is I want her to be the happy and outgoing dog that's active and wants to go out and go on hikes and do Gundog training and all the above. But as well as that, we can also come home and she can settle, she can switch off. She's not going to be terrorizing me. She's not going to be mouthing and biting me and running havoc. She's actually going to be well-rounded and balanced. That is everything I have and have not bought for my puppy. We are going to be doing a vlog series on Drift's development, so please do look out for that. And then the next time I see you, I'll have a puppy.